Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And that's a wrap for the 2022-2023 NFL season. Super Bowl 57 is over. All hail the champion, the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes gets his second. Andy Reid beats his old team, and Travis Kelce wins the battle of the Kelce Bowl. So we're going to recap everything that you may have seen or missed during the game. So Tim, are you ready to go?
Let's run it.
The Chiefs escaped the Eagles 38-35 in the first half. The Eagles came out firing. They were scoring left and right. Jalen Hurts was doing it all. He spearheaded 3 touchdowns in the first half and a field goal, and Philadelphia went into the half up 24-14. But whatever Andy Reid said at the half woke up the Chiefs, and they came alive.
Those halftime adjustments, man.
Every single second half drive, catching them, passing them, and eventually taking the lead on a field goal by Harrison Butker, a game winner, which we will get to later because this game was not without controversy. But Patrick Mahomes took home Super Bowl MVP, his second in his career, 21 of 27, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 96.4 QBR in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes was magnificent. Like you said, what a year for him. NFL MVP, Super Bowl MVP. What more could you really ask for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, for him specifically, I mean, it's kind of that holy trinity of quarterback play and of the NFL in general. To go NFL MVP, Super Bowl MVP, and come away with the champions, you really can't ask for a much better season. The way he played was incredible, and you saw him go down again during that game on an awkward tackle, and saying, "Okay, what's going to happen now with that ankle?" But they did some stuff on the sideline, maybe retaped it, gave him some other meds, and he came out and put up a hell of a performance to just barely get him out on top. So you got to give a ton of credit to him. And of course, that team we talked about, I mean, at the beginning of the season, throughout the season, even in the playoffs, of like, hey, this is a different Kansas City team. And as we found, it's more of the same when you've got a lot of those guys that understand what it takes to get it done. And they showed it in this one.
Yeah, they absolutely got it done. But I think we have to mention the other side, the other quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He was phenomenal as well. Patrick Mahomes said it in the post-game presser. If there were any doubters, there shouldn't be now, because Jalen Hurts pretty much put the team on his back. 27 of 38, 304 yards passing, a passing touchdown and 0 interceptions, which was good for a 79.7 QBR, which is still really awesome. And then what he did on the ground as well, 15 carries, 70 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs did a good job of taking away, a lot of different opportunities for the Eagles throughout the game. So it did cause Jalen Hurts to be forced to scramble a lot, to run a lot. He made tons of plays on his feet throughout the game. What more do you say about the Eagles' ability to QB sneak? Because it's incredible and almost terrifying how that giant just green wall just slowly moves forward and creates that space for him to get that 1 or 2 yards when they need it. And that was good for a lot of touchdowns and quite a few first downs throughout the game. But overall, I mean, 27 for 38 and those 304 yards, like, he proved that he very well can throw it with the best of the best as well, with some of their weapons there. But they did do a pretty good job, regardless of AJ Brown getting 6 receptions on 8 targets for 96 yards and a touchdown. Some of those really came on like that chunk yardage, especially on that touchdown. Other than that, they did a pretty good job of taking him away. And they did a lot better on the rushing game than I thought they would. Other than Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia's rushing game was kind of kept pretty mute, with Miles Sanders going 7 for 16, and Kenneth Gainwell going 7 for 21. So that was, I think, a big reason why Philadelphia's offense was much different in the second half, as they really couldn't do much to establish the run, which is exactly what I did not think was going to happen. So a lot of credit to the Chiefs' defensive line and overall defense on that one.
Yeah, and that's something that the Eagles love to do. We know they can throw the ball, and essentially the Chiefs defense said Jalen Hurts can pass it, hit those 3 receivers. I mean, you mentioned AJ Brown's stat line. Devonta Smith, 7 catches for 100 yards, and Dallas Goedert, 6 catches for 60 yards, with some pretty phenomenal throws and catches.
Some of those sidelines, they were beautiful. I was beautiful. Very, very impressed.
But what the Eagles didn't do is after they established that passing game that really grind you
They
down
couldn't
and wear
follow
you
it
down
up.
with the run, and with the exception of Jalen Hurts, they really couldn't do that. So
It forced him
they
into
were
a lot
forced to
more like
throw the
third
ball.
and well, it forced him
Hmm.
into a lot more of like those third and long situations, which is what they try to avoid. Because in a lot of those situations, they're willing to, even on like a third and medium or third and short, they're very willing to run it or do some type of short yardage play, knowing that they are very likely to go for it if it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2. But they weren't allowed to do that for a lot of the game because they did have a lot of those long yardage situations, and they Chiefs did a good job of not letting Jalen Hurts get comfortable in the pocket either.
Another thing I want to talk about is Patrick Mahomes with that ankle. Not enough credit is given to the Chiefs offensive line. Like the
No,
Eagles pass rush,
not a
that
single
was
sack.
not a single sack given up. The Eagles pass rush has terrorized quarterbacks all playoffs long. Patrick Mahomes never got sacked. And that
It's like they
has,
heard all of my concerns
yeah,
that I came up with the fact that I thought the defensive line was going to beat them and that I thought that their offensive line was going to push back the Chiefs, and the Chiefs did the exact opposite of that. So, yeah, that's incredibly impressive and great game planning and fight from all of those guys.
yeah,
And yet it was still a super close game.
the entire offensive unit for the Chiefs. They did everything they needed to do more so in the second half than the first, but it's better to figure out late than never. And
Absolutely.
they definitely figured out. But I think it's now time to talk about that final drive for Kansas City.
Oh
And
man, man, oh man.
what was such a great game, the Philadelphia Eagles with 5:15 to go, Jalen Hurts gets his third rushing touchdown of the game, and then they convert the 2-point conversion to tie it up at
Tie it up.
35 apiece. And then it was the Patrick Mahomes legacy drive as he very slowly took the ball down the field, took
Very
just
methodical.
enough off the clock, but he had a little bit of help from the black and white stripes because
It
that pass to Juju Smith-Schuster, that was called back. The holding on James Bradbury that people are going to be talking about, especially in Philadelphia, for a long time, changed the game, gave Kansas City an extra set of downs, and let
run down
Jerick
that clock.
McKinnon get around the edge, run down the clock, slide down at the one, and let Mahomes kneel it down after the 2-minute warning so Harrison Butker could kind of just chip it in. But it's like we talked about this last year. If go watch that recap, that was another late game penalty that gave the offensive team another opportunity to win. And in that game too, the offensive team took advantage. I so very much wish that these games would not come down to pivotal calls at that,
Yeah,
because it ruins darn near everything. That
yeah.
game is
It
going to,
left a very sour taste in my mouth for an
oh, it
otherwise very
absolutely
good,
did.
very competitive Super Bowl.
Yeah, and this was an all-time classic, and now with the way the game ended, eh, not so much.
Yeah, for me personally, like we've seen great credit to James Bradbury, coming clean, basically saying like, yeah, I did hold him. I
Accountability
thought
is
that
really important.
Yeah, no, and I give him a lot of credit for that. But honestly, even though that he says he did it, I still kind of disagree with him. Looking back on that replay, in terms of traditional defensive holding call, maybe that qualifies for most parts of the game. On a third and long with less than 2 minutes to go in the Super Bowl and a tie game in the red zone, I just don't think you could call that.
In that
The other
stage of the game,
I don't even know if that throw was even catchable. And I know that's more of a DPI type thing, but like that throw was so far out in front of him, even if he didn't get shaken up there. I don't know. I would have liked to see them just let that go because of how in my mind, like I didn't see him ever actually grab onto anything outside of maybe a slight jersey tug, but you see this in every NFL game.
and well, we can talk.
If refs wanted to call those types of holdings or DPIs, they could call it on almost every play.
They
But you have to
probably
choose
could.
which
They could
ones they have to
probably
choose
find
which ones to
something.
let go and which ones to call. And that's just one that I wish they would have let go for the sake of the game.
Tim, like you disagree that like it wasn't a penalty. I would have to disagree with that. By the black letter of the law, that is a defensive holding, but I completely agree with the timing. The timing was not appropriate, especially that late in the game. Like, if you want to let them play for the first 58 minutes, which again, we saw last year, and then in the last 2 minutes, you almost want to over referee the game and
Yeah.
blow your whistle almost excessively, when in reality, it should be the other way around. I understand the scrutiny that the refs have been under lately and like the pressure that they're under to get every big call right,
Yeah, no, I the
it's
pressure is incredible,
but
but
it's a time and place thing, and in that situation, I just don't know. I don't
yeah.
know.
Everybody can find something to complain about it, but at the end of the day, we've talked about in so many of these games, there's 50 other things throughout the game that could have gone differently to not let it be like that. So it's not worth really saying that that was the true cause of the end of the game, because the
Of course.
Eagles still would have had to go down the field and try to get in field goal range.
Yeah,
So
regardless, that still would have been very tough. The game was not set in stone. But speaking about those Eagles, Jalen Hurts is the real deal. That team is still loaded, and they're going to
absolutely,
be.
they're talented.
I'm not going to say they're going to be back because that's never a guarantee. There are so many examples
It's
of
always a tough
teams
road every single year, but
where like you
they've got the
think they're
pieces
going
to
to
do
get
it.
back and then they just don't, but they definitely have the pieces to gear up for another Super Bowl run. And on the other side, the Kansas City Chiefs capture their second. They were asked on the podium, is this a dynasty? It's not a dynasty yet. Get one more and then we'll start talking dynasty. But Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback. Early signs of the greatest of all time cooking.
He's got a lot of work to do if he's going to get on that level. I think the big thing is, obviously he's had a ton of success in terms of winning and talent and stats, but at his age of 27, I believe, obviously having your second Super Bowl by now is great. But if you want to try to catch Tom, you better start knocking some of those numbers up, because his numbers are incredible if you want to try to compare that. But I mean, he is going to
But
cement
he's
himself
he's
as a top
he's
five, top
well
three
on his
quarterback
way.
of all time for sure.
Tim, he is well on his way. He has a very impressive resume. I'm going to list it out. In 5 seasons, two Super Bowls, two Super Bowl MVPs, two NFL MVPs, three first team All Pros, one Offensive Player of the Year in the NFL, and a Pro Bowl in every single season. That's really darn impressive.
Oh,
And
absolutely, yeah.
if you
People
want
are
to
always
make a
going to talk about the
case to
Super Bowls,
catch
though.
Tom Brady, then
Oh, he's the closest that he's got so far.
that is a very, very, very good start. And we could talk about the GOAT all we want, but it's really impressive to watch Patrick Mahomes like come in and do the things he's done. And there's no doubt that it's going to continue for a long, long time. But Tim, you got anything else about the Super Bowl?
No, I mean it's obviously a very fun game, and a very. I'm glad that this was a competitive and high scoring one. Those are always more fun than either the defensive matchups or the blowouts. I think it was a great way to end this season, but that wraps up another season in the book. So we've got other stuff to focus on coming here on out. So I'm excited.
See, for you, it's college basketball season. For me, pitchers and catchers are reporting soon. So it's going to be
Yep,
baseball season.
we all got our stuff.
And we're going to have lots more stuff to come. It's almost March. Tim, you're going to be tackling college basketball. I'm sure to tackle some MLB content and getting you ready for the upcoming baseball season. If you want to watch our stuff throughout this year of football, we have so much, and will be having so much more. So if you want more from us, like and subscribe. And until next time, we out.